Hi everybody, I'm Dena Rekow from the Creativity Cave, and I'm so excited to share with you my all-star tutorial project with the Pattern Play Suite. I think you guys are going to absolutely love this suite, and I think my card is pretty fun too. So I'm really excited to give you some tips and tricks along the way as well. So let's get started. First, I'm going to start with a purple posy card base. I really had to think about those words because it's kind of a tongue twister. And I'll fold that in half. And then I have cut a piece of the printed paper to adhere to my card as well. All of the measurements that I'm using will be in the instructions for this video, so you can check all of those details out. I'm going to use some Stampin' Seal to get this going. We'll just adjust this slightly, and oh, does this ever happen to you? Just move this up. But what really helps to avoid that from happening is to tip this up and release, and then you can get it. It's when you tip it up like that, it really helps keep the adhesive where you want it. Okay, so that looks great. I've also cut a layer of Night of Navy and Whisper White. Now I'll set these aside for the moment because I'm going to work with stamping on my Whisper White panel. Now I want to create a little background for my hugs that I'm going to add that I die cut. And for that I've chose the three colors you see here, Coastal Cabana, Purple Posy, and Night of Navy, to do my stamping. I'm going to start with Purple Posy. Now this is an ink pad that we don't actually have anymore. So to get Purple Posy, I'm going to use Stamped Off Highland Heather ink. Okay, so I'll take the little dotted image and I'm going to ink this up, like I said, in Highland Heather, but I'm going to stamp off the first layer of ink onto a scrap paper. So I'll just bring this in to protect my work surface. So stamp that off, and then we'll just stamp that on. Oops, I didn't get a very good impression, so I'm just going to flip this over and try again. Okay. So there we go. And now I have a color that looks very similar to Purple Posy. All right, I'll switch it up and do Coastal Cabana this time. And of course, I'm going to clean my stamp in between. So I'm going to use my little Stampin' Chamois for that. So I will stamp this one full strength. And then we'll finish with Night of Navy. And I'm just kind of going a little bit off. And I did that again. Ooh, I lined it up perfectly. Oh, that was impressive, wasn't it? Okay, next I'm going to do the same thing again, only I'm going to stamp off a layer so I get a lighter. So that means I'm going to stamp this off twice, and I'm going to have a really light layer of dots. There, you can see, super light. We'll clean, even though there's not much ink left. And I'll stamp off a layer, and then I'll ink this up and stamp off a layer here. Okay, so now I've got a cute little background of dots, which I love. And then I took this little, I don't know what, this little border image, and I'm going to stamp this at the very top of my little dots and the very bottom in Night of Navy. And isn't that just a cute little area? I just love the way that turned out. All right, now we're going to stamp the word, or we're going to, pardon me, die cut the word hugs from a scrap of our Purple Posy cardstock. So for this, what I want to do is take my letters and kind of line them up onto my paper. So I've got the S, the G, the U, and the H, of course. Now, one of the things that I noticed is I can take and basically write out my word on the edge of the cardstock. I want to make sure I'm staying just inside the edge, you know, so that I don't accidentally cut off any of my letters. But when I go to run this through my die cut machine, I thought it would be really nice if they all kind of stayed in place. So to do that, I'm going to take a Post-it note and I'm going to just stick these letters together. That way the spacing is really nice and I can run them through on my cardstock. Okay, so I'll do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so that worked great. Now I'm going to remove my hugs. You can see it's spaced perfectly. So I could take this piece, kind of cut it out, and then use this on something, you know, on another project. I could use the negative here of my die cutting. But the other thing that I want to do is take a piece of, this is our foam adhesive sheets, and I'm going to line this right back up on the edge here, and I'm going to run this through once again with my Big Shot, or pardon me, my Stampin' Cut Emboss machine. There we go. And I'm going to run this through and I'll get foam letters too. So hold on, I'll be right back. Now I have to be honest, every time I do this, I'm always a little surprised it actually cuts my letters out. It feels like it wouldn't cut through all this, but it sure does. Now, a couple of tips for you. When you do use the foam adhesive, what I like to do is leave the letters inside the foam sheet. And the reason is because they are easier to line up your cardstock letters to place on top if they're still kind of held in place. So what I'll do is just remove the backing on the top, and then I can position the cardstock right over the top, and now it's perfectly in place because my letter hasn't moved. The foam isn't kind of out of its original shape. It's still right in there. So I just find that to be so easy. And it's kind of like putting a puzzle together. So then once I've got my letters all positioned on top, then I can transfer them over to my project. So isn't that handy? Oh, I just love that. Okay, so we'll pull these letters out. I will say I tried to take the backing off from here and then leave them kind of in place and then just position these down. But what I found was that it was hard to line them up on here straight because you couldn't see exactly where you were going with the letters, you know, in this hunk. Maybe if I cut it out, it might have been easier, but that's just what I experienced. Now I'm going to remove the backing on here, and actually before I do that, I like to position things where I'd like them to be on here, and then I'm going to leave a little bit of room up top so I can put the rest of my sentiment. So I'm just going to write H U, and you can use your dots kind of to help guide you a little bit, unless you stamped your dots crooked. Then you don't use them as a guide. But that looks pretty cute, doesn't it? Oh my goodness. I just, like, who wouldn't want to get a card that says hugs on it? All right, so next I'll take and put these back on with my other letters so I don't lose them. And then I'm going to add a sentiment that I'm going to stamp. I used the words "sending you," and that is from the A Wish for Everything set. This is a big set full of stamps, and so I used the "sending you" from there. I will take and stamp that onto a scrap paper of Coastal Cabana. So I will use Coastal Cabana ink on here as well. And I'll just stamp this on my scrap. Sending you. Now I'll take my classic label punch to punch this out like that. And I want to have the little banner ends on both ends. So I'm just going to position this in here like so and punch. And then that will give me those awesome little banner ends. And I'm going to punch them just a little bit tighter to the word, just a little bit. Okay. Now I will pop this up with a piece of dimensional. You can even use, like you might have a little scrap left over in your adhesive sheet. That would be perfect for this. So I'm just going to take a little portion of this and put that backing on to pop this up. And maybe I'll take one more little hunk from here because that was kind of a small piece. But a great way to use up your leftovers. Okay, so sending you hugs. Isn't that just the sweetest? All right, I want to adhere this to that layer of Night of Navy that I cut. So I will run some of my seal on here. And of course, this needs something, right? So we have this adorable ribbon combo pack that's available. So I wanted to actually incorporate all three of these ribbons since they clearly matched my color scheme. So I'm just going to cut off a piece that's, 5 inches or so. And I'm not measuring these very carefully, but just a scrap of each. So maybe, what is that, about 14 centimeters? And I'm going to fold each in half like that. And then layer them up upon one another. And then I will take and simply staple these to my card as an embellishment. Now, we used to sell a stapler a long time ago, but any regular office stapler will work for this just fine. So you just want to go through all 3 layers and give it a staple, and that's just fun. And then finally, we have these amazing resin dots. I really like these. This is my second sheet of them, and I'm going to add just a few of these to my card to embellish as well. So I'll take and position a couple on here, like so. And there we go. Fun, fun, fun. All right, to finish my card off, I'm going to simply pop this up onto my card base because I love adding a little bit of dimension to my projects, and hopefully you do too. It makes such a nice touch. And, we're gonna put it on straight even. There we go. So there's my project. I hope you loved this tutorial. And if you live in the US and need to purchase any of the supplies to make this project, I would sure appreciate your business. Thank you guys so much for being either a subscriber or purchased the tutorial or earned it for free. We appreciate your business and hope that you love all these tutorials. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.